Let me ask you a powerful question. Why is it that so many people over 60 can be eating carefully, walking daily, and even trying to lose weight, yet their muscles still seem to shrink away year after year? If you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you already know what I'm talking about. You wake up one morning, and your arms and legs feel smaller, your grip strength is weaker, and climbing the stairs feels more like a workout than it used to. This is not simply aging. What you are experiencing is something called sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle tissue that begins as early as your 30s, but accelerates after 60. Here is what is most shocking. Sarcopenia is not just about losing strength. It is directly linked to insulin resistance, to falls and fractures, to slower metabolism, to weight gain around the belly, and even to accelerated aging of the brain. In fact, research shows that muscle mass is one of the single strongest predictors of how long and how well you will live. Strong muscles mean more mitochondria, better blood sugar control, and a more resilient immune system. Now here is the good news. This is not inevitable. Sarcopenia is not simply a sentence of aging. It is reversible, and it is preventable if you understand the root cause. And today, we are going to break this down together, step by step. We are going to focus on one of the most overlooked yet powerful tools for rebuilding muscle after 60, food. And specifically, one food that, if you add it to your breakfast, can dramatically shift the way your body holds on to muscle, repairs itself, and even burns fat more efficiently. But before we dive into that one food, we need to understand the physiology. Because here is the truth. It is not simply about eating more protein. If it were that simple, we would not see millions of older adults still losing muscle even while drinking protein shakes. What is really happening has everything to do with your liver, your mitochondria, your insulin, and even your hormones. So in this session, I'm going to show you 6 science-backed insights that will completely change the way you think about muscle loss after 60. You will learn why your breakfast might be sabotaging your muscle tissue, how insulin resistance quietly shuts down your muscle growth, why certain amino acids act like on switches for muscle repair, how inflammation accelerates sarcopenia, and of course the single food you can start adding to your breakfast to reverse this trend. Stay with me until the end, because if you apply even one of these strategies, you could see a shift in your energy, strength, and metabolism within just a few weeks. Let us begin with the first insight. Why your breakfast can either protect your muscles or quietly destroy them. Now, most people over 60 grew up with the idea that breakfast should be light, easy, and often carbohydrate-based. A bowl of cereal, a piece of toast, maybe some fruit juice, or even a muffin with coffee. It feels like a gentle start to the day. But here is the problem. From a metabolic standpoint, this is exactly the wrong signal to send your body if you want to hold on to muscle. Let me explain what is happening inside your body. Overnight, while you are sleeping, your muscles are in what we call a fasted state. That simply means they are waiting for a signal, a trigger, to begin repairing and rebuilding. Think of your muscle cells like a construction crew waiting outside a building site. They have all the tools and blueprints, but they will not start until the foreman shows up. That foreman is a specific amino acid signal called leucine. Without leucine, the crew just stands around. Now imagine what happens if instead of giving them that signal, you flood your body with sugar and refined grains first thing in the morning. That spike of glucose drives insulin higher, which then tells your body, store fat, shut down fat burning, and hold off on muscle repair. It is like paying your construction crew to take the day off. Your muscles stay in neutral, and in some cases, you even start breaking them down further because insulin resistance gets in the way of protein synthesis. This is why so many older adults feel weaker over time, even if they are eating well, because if your first meal of the day does not trigger muscle protein synthesis, you miss the window. And when you repeat that every day, the effect compounds. What the research shows is that older adults need a stronger stimulus to turn on muscle building compared to younger people. In other words, what worked in your 20s or 30s does not work in your 60s or 70s. You cannot just nibble on a piece of toast and expect your muscles to grow. You need a protein-rich, leucine-rich food to flip that switch. So what is the practical solution? It begins with rethinking breakfast. Instead of cereal or toast, start your day with foods that deliver at least 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein and enough leucine to activate that muscle-building pathway. That could mean eggs, Greek yogurt, or the food we will reveal later in this session. That does the job better than almost anything else. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine two people, both 65 years old. One begins his morning with a bowl of cereal and orange juice. The other begins her morning with 2 eggs, a slice of smoked salmon, and some sautéed spinach. Fast forward 10 years. Who do you think will have more strength, more balance, and a faster metabolism? It is not even a question. The second person has been feeding her muscles every morning with the raw materials and the signals they need. So here is the challenge for you. Look at your current breakfast. Is it telling your muscles to grow, or is it quietly telling them to shrink? That one decision, repeated over years, makes all the difference. And if this is helpful so far, consider subscribing because I share science-based strategies like this every day, designed to help you age stronger, leaner, and healthier. Now that we have seen how breakfast can either wake up or shut down your muscle-building machinery, let us talk about one of the most overlooked forces behind muscle loss: insulin resistance. Most people think of insulin only in terms of diabetes or blood sugar, but here is the truth. Insulin is also one of the most powerful anabolic hormones in your body. That means it has a direct role in whether your muscles grow or whether they waste away. Here is the physiology. When you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin to move glucose into your cells. Ideally, a small rise in insulin also helps shuttle amino acids, the building blocks of protein, directly into your muscle tissue. That is a good thing. But when your body becomes resistant to insulin, 2 things happen. Number 1, glucose stops entering your muscles efficiently, so more of it gets stored as fat. And number 2, your muscles lose their sensitivity to the growth signals that insulin normally provides. In simple terms, insulin resistance makes your muscle cells deaf to the grow and repair message. Think of it like this. Imagine insulin as a key and your muscle cell as a door. In your 20s, the lock turns smoothly, the door opens, and nutrients flow in. By the time you reach your 60s, if you have developed insulin resistance, the lock is rusty. You can jiggle the key all you want, but the door will not open properly. The nutrients pile up outside, and instead of feeding your muscles, they get diverted into fat storage. This is why so many older adults notice 2 things happening at the same time. Their muscles are shrinking and their waistlines are expanding. It is not simply aging, it is metabolic dysfunction. Now, what the research shows is that insulin resistance is not just about too much sugar. It is driven by several root causes: fatty liver, chronic inflammation, poor sleep, and lack of physical activity. And here is the kicker. Once insulin resistance sets in, your ability to build muscle drops dramatically, even if you are eating protein. So what is the solution? Number 1, lower your insulin load. That means cutting down on refined carbohydrates like bread, cereal, pasta, and sugary drinks, especially in the morning when your body is most insulin sensitive. Number 2, add resistance training, even light bodyweight movements. Studies show that contracting your muscles acts like an independent pathway to pull glucose inside, bypassing insulin altogether. It is like installing a back door that does not require the rusty lock. And number 3, focus on foods that improve insulin sensitivity. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish, magnesium-rich greens, and polyphenols from foods like green tea or blueberries. Let me give you a quick story. I had a patient in her late 60s who was frustrated because she was losing strength despite drinking a daily protein shake. When we measured her fasting insulin, it was elevated, a clear sign of insulin resistance. We adjusted her breakfast away from oatmeal and juice and added a low-carbohydrate, protein-rich meal instead. Within 3 months, not only did her muscle strength improve, but her fasting insulin dropped by nearly 50%. That is the power of restoring insulin sensitivity. It is not just about preventing diabetes. It is about unlocking your muscles so that every gram of protein you eat actually gets used. We have talked about breakfast timing and insulin resistance, but now let us get very specific about the actual nutrient signal that flips muscle building on or off, and that signal comes from a very particular amino acid, leucine. Here is what you need to know. Every protein you eat, whether it is from eggs, fish, beef, beans, or dairy, is made up of amino acids. But not all amino acids have the same role. Some act as raw materials, like bricks in a house. Others act as signals, like the switch that turns on the power. Leucine is that switch. Think of it this way. Imagine you are trying to build a house. You might have truckloads of bricks and lumber sitting outside the construction site, but if no one flips the power on, the crew cannot operate their tools, and construction never begins. In your body, leucine is the one that flips the switch to activate something called mTOR, a master pathway that tells your muscles, start growing, start repairing, use the protein that is coming in. Here's the challenge, especially after 60. As we age, our muscles become less sensitive to leucine. This is called anabolic resistance. It means that the same amount of leucine that used to trigger growth in your 30s is no longer enough in your 60s or 70s. That is why sipping on a little bit of protein or having just a small serving of yogurt often does not work. You need a threshold dose of leucine at one meal to flip that switch fully. What the research shows is that for most older adults, you need about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine at one sitting to fully activate muscle protein synthesis. To put that in real food terms, that is roughly the amount you would get from about 3 to 4 eggs, or a good scoop of high-quality whey protein, or a serving of lean beef, chicken, or certain fish. If you come in under that threshold, you get a trickle of protein use, but you never fully light up the muscle-building pathway. Now, why does this matter for breakfast? Because most traditional breakfasts do not even come close. A slice of toast? Practically zero. A bowl of cereal? Maybe 1 gram at best. Even a single egg only gives you about half a gram of leucine. This is why so many people think they are eating protein, but they are never reaching the threshold that actually matters. Here is the practical solution. Anchor at least one meal of your day, ideally breakfast or lunch, with enough high-quality protein to reach that leucine threshold. Think of it as flipping the switch early so that your muscles stay active throughout the day. That could mean eggs plus cottage cheese, or salmon with avocado, or the food we will reveal later that delivers this in an even more concentrated, powerful way. And let me add this. If you are someone who already eats protein, but still feels like your strength is declining, this is likely the missing link. You are eating the bricks, but you are not flipping the switch. Once you do, the difference can be dramatic. Better recovery from activity, stronger grip, more stamina climbing stairs, and even improved metabolism because your muscles are active tissue. So if you want to reverse muscle loss after 60, do not just count grams of protein. Pay attention to the leucine signal, because it is not the total number of bricks that matters. It is whether the lights are on at the construction site. And if this kind of science-backed, practical health teaching is resonating with you, make sure you subscribe. I post content like this every day, designed to help you optimize your health naturally. So far, we have looked at breakfast choices, insulin resistance, and the leucine switch. Now we need to talk about one of the most underestimated enemies of muscle health, chronic inflammation. When most people hear the word inflammation, they think of an injury, a swollen ankle, a sore joint, or redness around a cut. That is acute inflammation, and it is actually a good thing because it means your immune system is repairing damage. But the type I am talking about is different. It is silent, chronic, and systemic. And it is this slow-burning fire that accelerates muscle breakdown, especially after 60. Here is the physiology. Inflammation increases the activity of certain molecules called cytokines. These cytokines interfere with the very pathway we talked about earlier, mTOR. Instead of allowing your muscle to receive the grow and repair signal, inflammation essentially blocks the message. It is like static on the radio. The music is there, but you cannot hear it. The result? Even if you eat protein, even if you exercise, your muscles are being told to break down rather than build up. Now, let us bring in the liver, because this is the piece almost nobody talks about. Your liver is your body's central metabolic hub. It manages blood sugar, detoxification, and fat metabolism. But it is also where many inflammatory processes begin, especially if you have fatty liver. Fatty liver is not just a liver problem. It is a whole-body inflammatory engine. And studies show that older adults with fatty liver have significantly higher rates of sarcopenia compared to those with a healthy liver. Think of your liver like the thermostat in your house. If the thermostat is broken and constantly running hot, every room overheats. That is what happens with inflammation. It spreads through your body, damaging mitochondria, impairing insulin sensitivity, and ultimately accelerating muscle loss. So, what is the solution? Number 1. Reduce the sources of inflammation. That means cutting down on processed vegetable oils, refined carbohydrates, and excess alcohol, all of which fuel the liver fire. Number 2. Add anti-inflammatory, liver-healing foods. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts activate detox pathways. Omega-3 fats from salmon or sardines help cool the cytokine storm, and spices like turmeric have compounds that directly lower inflammatory signals. Number 3. Prioritize sleep. Research shows that even one night of poor sleep raises inflammatory markers and lowers insulin sensitivity. Over time, that weakens muscle tissue. By contrast, deep restorative sleep lowers inflammation and boosts growth hormone, one of the most powerful natural allies for your muscles. Let me give you a quick real-world example. A gentleman in his 70s came to me complaining of muscle weakness despite lifting weights 3 times a week. When we ran some blood work, his liver enzymes were elevated, a sign of fatty liver. We shifted his diet to include more cruciferous vegetables, omega-3 fats, and reduced processed carbohydrates. 6 months later, his liver enzymes normalized, his inflammation markers dropped, and the same weightlifting sessions that once left him exhausted were actually rebuilding his strength. The lesson here is simple. If you want to grow muscle after 60, you cannot ignore inflammation, and you absolutely cannot ignore your liver. A quiet fire inside the body can undo all your best efforts. But if you learn how to cool that fire, your muscles will respond, your energy will rise, and your entire metabolism will shift into a younger state. We have looked at breakfast timing, insulin resistance, leucine as the light switch, and the role of inflammation and the liver. Now let us zoom into the microscopic level and talk about something that directly determines your strength, your energy, and even how fast you age: your mitochondria. Mitochondria are the little power plants inside nearly every cell of your body, but they are especially concentrated in your muscle tissue. Their job is to take the food you eat, glucose, fat, amino acids, and turn it into ATP, the usable energy currency of your body. Without ATP, your muscles cannot contract, your brain cannot focus, and your organs cannot function. Here is the fascinating part. Your muscle mass is not just about size. It is about the health and number of your mitochondria. A person with dense, well-functioning mitochondria in their muscles can have more strength, more endurance, and even a faster metabolism than someone with the same muscle size but weaker mitochondria. Now here is the challenge after 60. Mitochondria naturally decline with age. But it is not simply the passage of time. It is largely lifestyle, poor diet, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and lack of movement all damage mitochondria or shut down the creation of new ones, a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. The result is that your muscles literally run out of energy. They tire more quickly, they recover more slowly, and they shrink faster. Think of it like a city. Imagine you have 2 cities of the same size. One has 100 power plants running efficiently, the other has only 30 power plants sputtering along. Which city will thrive? Which one will have blackouts, shortages, and slower growth? Your muscles work the same way. If your mitochondria are weak, you feel it as weakness, fatigue, and accelerated aging. So what does the science show helps recharge mitochondria? Number 1. Resistance exercise. When you challenge your muscles, you not only make them stronger, you actually stimulate the creation of brand new mitochondria. That means every workout is like building new power plants for your city. Number 2. Intermittent fasting. Going without food for periods of time activates a process called autophagy, where old, damaged mitochondria are cleared out, making room for new, efficient ones. That is like clearing broken machinery out of the factory so new equipment can take its place. Number 3. Certain nutrients act as mitochondrial fuel. Coenzyme Q10, creatine, alpha-lipoic acid, and carnitine are all shown to improve mitochondrial function. But even before supplements, real food sources matter. Fatty fish, grass-fed meat, nuts, and deeply colored vegetables all support mitochondrial health. Number 4. Avoid toxins that damage mitochondria, especially excess alcohol, smoking, and processed seed oils. These disrupt the delicate membranes of your mitochondria and directly impair energy production. Let me share a story. A woman in her early 70s came to me exhausted. She was eating protein and even walking daily, but her energy was gone. We shifted her to a lower carbohydrate, nutrient-dense diet, added short resistance training sessions 3 times a week, and encouraged a 12 to 14-hour fasting window overnight. Within 3 months, she reported more energy in her legs, better stamina when climbing stairs, and sharper focus. What had changed? Her mitochondria were finally being supported. So here is the takeaway. Muscle strength after 60 is not just about lifting weights or eating protein. It is about recharging the power plants inside your muscle cells. When your mitochondria are alive and active, your muscles stay alive and active. And if you are finding this information practical and useful, consider subscribing, because I share strategies like this daily designed to help you optimize longevity naturally. We have covered the key building blocks: how breakfast timing matters, the role of insulin resistance, the leucine switch, inflammation and the liver, and the importance of mitochondria. Now, let us bring it all together with something simple, practical, and actionable. One powerful food you can add to your breakfast starting tomorrow that directly reverses muscle loss. That food is whey protein. Now, before you think of it as just another supplement in a plastic tub, let me explain why whey is uniquely powerful and why research consistently shows it outperforms almost every other protein source when it comes to preserving muscle after 60. Number 1. Whey is the richest natural source of leucine. Remember our discussion about leucine as the light switch for muscle protein synthesis? Whey contains more leucine per gram than virtually any other protein, which means it flips that switch faster and more effectively. Just 1 scoop of high-quality whey protein typically provides about 2.5 grams of leucine, enough to cross that threshold and fully activate muscle growth. Number 2. Whey is rapidly absorbed. Unlike meat or beans, which take longer to break down, whey digests quickly, delivering amino acids into your bloodstream within 30 to 60 minutes. This is critical in the morning, when your muscles are primed after an overnight fast and waiting for that anabolic signal. Number 3. Whey improves insulin sensitivity. Studies have shown that whey protein taken with a meal can actually blunt the blood sugar spike from carbohydrates. That means you are not only building muscle, you are also calming insulin resistance, one of the root drivers of sarcopenia. Number 4. Whey is anti-inflammatory. It contains bioactive peptides that help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, especially in the liver. Remember how inflammation interferes with muscle building? Whey helps quiet that static, clearing the path for growth signals to get through. And number 5, whey supports mitochondria. Because it contains cysteine, a precursor to glutathione, one of the body's master antioxidants. Whey indirectly protects your mitochondria from oxidative damage. That means more efficient energy factories inside your muscles and slower aging. Now, practically, what does this look like? It can be as simple as blending 1 scoop of high-quality whey protein into water, unsweetened almond milk, or even into a smoothie with spinach, frozen berries, and a spoon of flaxseed. That one step can shift your breakfast from muscle wasting to muscle building. Let me give you a quick story. A man in his late 60s came to me concerned about his grip strength and balance. He was eating eggs in the morning, which was good, but he was still falling short of the leucine threshold. We added just 1 scoop of whey protein to his breakfast. Within 8 weeks, his grip strength measurably improved. He was steadier on his feet, and his energy levels rose. Nothing else changed, he simply gave his body the signal it had been waiting for. Now, am I saying whey is the only solution? Absolutely not. Whole foods matter, resistance exercise matters, sleep and stress management matter. But if you want one simple science-backed lever you can pull immediately, whey protein is it. It is affordable, accessible, and incredibly effective at flipping on the very pathways that keep your muscles young. So tomorrow morning, ask yourself, is my breakfast telling my muscles to grow or to shrink? Add a scoop of whey, and you will have your answer. We have covered a lot today. Until next, take care of yourself. We will meet in the next video.